One and all to the MIRTH web show. My name is David Batterine, and for the next hour, I will be your host through the mayhem and insanity of exploring all things creativity. The show exists to help you, the creator, connect with fans, friends, and peers by showcasing not just your work, but your brain, your creative process, and your personality. Please like, subscribe, hit the bell. We stream on Tuesdays and Thursdays at 8 p.m. Over the next hour, expect some deep conversation, some lighthearted fun, and prying open the creative brain of my very special guest, Mr. Andrew Heymann. Andrew, how are you tonight?
I am great, David. Thanks. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. I'm thrilled to have you on. I want to go ahead and start out. You and I, this is the first time we've met,
Yes.
other than just running into each other on Discord and stuff like that. So I have the outsider's view and perspective. I need to get to know you a little bit. And we're going to do that by some this or that questions to just start the whole thing off, right?
All right.
Okay, so what I'm going to do is go for about 60 seconds. But before I start that, I'm going to ask the question that I ask everybody, which is, would you rather travel in a homemade hot air balloon or a janky submarine?
Definitely a hot air balloon.
You go hot air balloon.
Yeah, I enjoy mountains, so I think the view would be much better than
the view would be better.
The murky depth of the ocean. Yeah.
Right, that's fine. That's fine. All right, so let's get through some of these randomized this or that questions. Let's go first. Sweet or savory?
Ooh, sweet.
Sweet it is. Superheroes or supervillains?
A well-written supervillain.
Yes. Let's go zombie apocalypse or robot overlords?
In my younger days, I would have jumped at zombie apocalypse because I thought I was tough and all that. So I guess I'll stay with that.
Okay. Not stomping machines. Read the book or watch the movie?
Probably read the book.
Probably read the book. Flying cars or underwater city?
Ooh.
Right.
I guess I'm going to stick with the view thing, and I'll stick with the flying.
With the cars. Okay. Barbecue or ranch?
Oh, barbecue. Not even a question.
Absolutely. Yeah, no, I agree. Christina or Brittany? Everybody wants to know.
Well, I'm old, so I'm going to say in that genre, I'll say Madonna. How about that?
There you go. Oh, man, there's some age. That's good. Virtual reality or augmented reality?
Augmented. Not that I know really what that means, but augmented.
Fantasy or sci-fi?
Plastic surgery and all that, or is that something different?
Fantasy or sci-fi?
Fantasy.
Fantasy. And then last but certainly not least, ghosts or aliens?
No, aliens.
Aliens.
Yes.
All right. Okay, that's good. I'm getting a sense of where you're going with this.
Okay.
And
I'm glad you are, because are you psychoanalyzing me? Because I don't know where I'm going with any of this.
Definitely. The answer of Madonna, when I ask you Christina or Brittany, that like pretty much points to Gen X. Am I yeah, see, exactly. Same here. I know. We grew up with that. That's
funny too, because I had heard you ask on a previous one, Brittany or Christine. I'm like, I don't know. Like, that's
I don't freaking know.
I don't freaking know. It'd be like my kids now, like get all excited. I'm like, I don't. Obviously, I know who Taylor Swift is, but the rest of them, they asked me to listen to. They're young. They're 8 and. So they asked me to listen to Olivia Rodrigo in the car the other day. So I was like, yeah, sure. The first song, it was like F-bombs here and there, and I was like, no, abort.
Man, can't we go back to like Rafi and stuff like that? Like,
I don't know who these people are. I know the names, but I don't know the music.
Yeah,
so.
I'll tell you what. I have a better chance of picking out the Wiggles in a crowd than I do Olivia Rodrigo for sure. So, like, that's my kids are all like they're 16 to 22 right now. So we were in like prime Wiggles time when that was going down.
We're a Bluey family. We're all about.
Okay, yeah, no, it's great. Bluey's awesome for sure. For kids stuff, absolutely. So anyway, tonight I want to dig into your creative process and all of that. But before we do that, I want to give you the floor for 30 seconds and just say hi to everybody, tell them where we can find you, what's going on, and like all that kind of stuff. Promote what you want to promote. It is your time to shine. You can do it in interpretive dance if you want to. Doesn't matter. So 30 seconds. and let us know who you are. Go ahead.
I'll save the book promo for the end because I know that I think you'll let me do one at the end. But so for those who don't know me, which I'm sure is everybody, My name is Andrew Heymann. I retired a year and a half ago after 24 years in the Army to be a full-time Mr. Mom and part-time writer. I say full-time writer, but part-time. And I have a master's in English Lit. So another world, another age. Before I joined the Army, I always wanted to be, write the great American novel. And now I just settle for a novel. So that's how I spend most of my days. If I'm not a glorified Uber driver for my kids, I'm trying to knock out my first novel.
Nice. All right. So, and you've got so you've done some stuff for short stories. I know you did the Minstrel, with Sam and all that. Yeah, you go show them all.
So Minstrels, where am I? There's the camera.
Right.
Minstrels, obviously got a short story published in there, and then Tales of the E4 Mafia.
E4 Mafia, yeah.
And what was neat about it, I guess, was the Tales from the E4 Mafia was Henchman's Press first anthology they did, and then Minstrels was from Raconteur, and I know you had Sam on. I think he was your debut guest, right? So so because of the process, he's working them out. Sam kind of had it down like a well-oiled machine.
I'm sure.
So they ended up getting published within about 10 days of each other.
Oh, no kidding.
Even though the one in Tales of the E4 Mafia is a lot older than the other one. But so it was kind of neat for me because as a new writer, you're looking for some sort of feedback and ultimately validation that what you're doing doesn't completely suck. So so it's kind of neat, not only, it's actually my first quote unquote professional publications where someone's actually staking, their bank account and their reputation on my writing.
Right. For sure.
And then the fact that they came out, back to back was kind of cool. So June was this past June, and that was a very cool moment for me.
All right, nice. No, you know what? I appreciate that for sure. I like it. You're right in just that little bit of validation from somebody that, like, outside of your family or anybody else that sees the words and you're like, I'd like to put this on a page. Right. That's a really nice feeling for sure. You're working on a full length?
I am. So so I didn't want to do anything military. I had 24 years. My last probably 2 years in the military were not my fondest time in the military, and so I was completely burnt out. And I said, that's it. I don't want to do anything. So I started what I thought was going to be YA urban fantasy. Okay. Think like a darker version of Buffy the Vampire Slayer. Nice. And but again, I'm toiling away in my home office, plugging away with no feedback, no understanding of whether what I'm writing is any good or not. So I started looking at calls for submissions for short stories, and I answered one was for a online magazine called Tales from the Moonlit Path, and they were looking at they write horror, and so they were looking for a Halloween issue. So I wrote that and sent that off to see what happens. And then the Tales of the E4 Mafia call was out. And I was like, okay, I can come up with some sort of military sci-fi concept. So let me go with that. Right. And then that was also very, serendipitous, where I heard, like, within 24 hours, I heard acceptance on the online story. It's called The Procured, and it's a horror short story. Nice. Zombie. So that kind of fits into your question beforehand. And then I heard from the editor of Tales from the E4 Mafia that they liked it. Obviously needs some editing work. And then later he got back to me and he said, "Hey, I really like the story, and if you could expand this into a full length novel, I know some publishers who would be interested." So obviously, how could I not drop what I was doing and go with this? So part of me feels really self-conscious when someone says, "What are you writing?" And I say I'm writing military sci-fi because I'm like that guy. I'm that guy now who left the Army and started writing Army. But that was kind of how that did it. And then obviously, and now after being immersed in the world of his name's Combat Jack, so being immersed in his world now for 2 years, obviously I'm all in, and I'm hoping to have the first draft done and ready to go through the first round of edits by Christmas. So
nice. Okay, so you're right there. You're right there by the at least writing the end.
Yes, I can see I can see the end. I'm hoping the light is not a train at the end of the tunnel, but
So I say that to literally everybody. So that's good.
yeah.
I like it. That's my kind of turn of phrase. No, that's good. And I think you'll find too, just in terms of like how you're writing and going all over. Not like I don't necessarily want to be known as this, like so on and so forth. You should absolutely diversify the writing. That's really critical. I had a similar experience with with just like having to crank out a short story for It Came from the Trailer Park. And I did it in like 3 days. It was right after LibertyCon and the deadline was 3 days later. And I was like, oh man, I really want to, like, I had nothing. So I'm like, well, story in 3 days, like off we go. And then they accepted. And then,
cool.
All of that. But like, I also have nonfiction under my belt. I've written for magazines. So, just doing all of that is like, there's nothing, it's all good. It's all good. It's all writing and that kind of stuff. But then you have your projects that are just like, this one's near and dear. And
the next one I know I want to do is Grimdark.
Okay.
I wanted to write fantasy. I prefer fantasy to sci-fi. So I want to the next. I already have I have millions of notes already going to. I want to do the Grimdark fantasy novel next. So.
Nice. There you go. So let me start. Let's dig into some creativity stuff for you, because I'm really curious to know how you work and how your brain works. And so
you sure
you've been in the military for that long. Like, now I really want to know.
Yeah. Okay.
How much ibuprofen have you had?
I think I have a lifetime supply of 800 milligram ibuprofen.
That's right.
If they can figure out a way to give me an IV drip.
No, I have a very good friend who was military, and he's no longer in it. I actually wrote the foreword for his memoir
Nice.
for it, and so I've heard a lot of stories, and he's like whatever the ailment was, it was like, here's 800 milligrams
vitamin M,
and off you go.
Drink water, rub dirt on it, take some Motrin, vitamin M. So, and then now with all the surgeries, I can channel my inner Joker and say, I tell you about how I got these scars. So
nice. But when I say the phrase creative process, I want to know what that means to Andrew Heymann, right? I want to know what comes into your mind. What do you picture? What do you see? What's the instant thing that floats in there?
I see scenes, and especially I see dialogue in the scenes. So what I think is my best and most productive, I should say, would probably be the better way to say it. My most productive writing is when I see a scene it's really dialogue heavy. So, I've actually looked a little bit at like people like Aaron Sorkin and playwrights and that kind of stuff, who obviously it's very dialogue focused. And I'm in a writing critique group that's wonderful. And one of the constant positive piece of feedback I get is the dialogue. So what I'll usually do is I'll see dialogue and I'll write all the dialogue. Don't worry about tags or anything like that. Get it out of my head, get it on paper, and then I'll go back through and layer by layer flush out, the blocking of the scene, and who's where, who's doing what, and then the world building that needs to do. And we were talking beforehand, and world building is probably my least favorite aspect of it. And I do just in time world building. I need a widget to explain something. So here we go.
Right.
And, and then obviously, I think I was 24 years as an infantry officer. And then I've also done, even more than that in the martial arts, well over 30 years as a martial artist. So obviously I understand the physics of combat, if you want to say it that way, the mechanics of it. So the action scenes come pretty easy for me as well. I can obviously visualize and imagine that and pull from a little bit of reality. So that's I kind of look at it like overlays, so the dialogue goes down first, and then some of the reaction goes down, and then it's layer after layer after layer, and then eventually I build it out, and I have a total picture of what I'm trying to write.
Well, we got to get into martial arts for sure, because I've got a huge background for martial arts as well. So I actually had my own school for quite some time. We were American Kenpo. but my love was Muay Thai, and then I found I found that I had a knack for close quarters pain compliance. So lots of locks, lots of all that kind of stuff, joint manipulations,
Nice.
Everything to get somebody to stop doing what they're doing without leaving any marks was pretty much like where we went. And then I got hooked in, and I got asked to start training law enforcement. So I started doing that. That was fun.
Cool.
Because some of those guys needed a, they had a chip on their shoulder that needed to get knocked off. So
I can tell you some stories about that too.
Look, I had a blast. Like that was those were fun times, and they were good. They were good after. But like anybody, you got this new guy that's coming in, and he doesn't have the same background you. Like I knew that I was going to get tested the moment I walked in there. I was at their training facility. So like I'm like, well, let's pick the big guy with the tattoos, and then let's make him like tap. And just start like treated it like going to prison, basically.
I got out for a few years and had a cup of coffee with the Drug Enforcement Administration. And at the academy, they were going over, cuffing techniques. And they were doing one where they had you on your face and they threw you in a hammerlock, and then they're yelling at you, keep your hips down. And as I'm sure are very well aware, if you're in the joint locking, is the way you alleviate the pressure on your shoulder if you're in a hammerlock is to lift your hips. So you can't tell the guy, no one's going to comply by putting themselves into more pain. Pain compliance, you're complying by going where it's least painful, which is where I want you. So I'm trying to explain this to the instructor, but I'm just a dumb, cadet. What are they? They don't look at me as somebody who knows what they want to talk about in anything. So the guy's like, that, no, and I go, yes. And I said to him, by the way, you can also easily, the way you're doing it, if you don't control the far side of hip, I'm going to roll out of this really easy.
Exactly.
And the guy goes, no, you're not. Da, 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 da. I said, fine, put it on me. Okay. We'll do rubber meets the road. So I lay down. He puts me in a hammerlock. I do a Granby roll over my shoulder, and he follows me. He's one of the instructors. He follows me, and so he basically gets in my guard, and he puts his hand on my throat, and he rears back to punch me. You can imagine what I did with the hand on my throat.
Of course.
Threw my legs up, arm barred him.
Yep.
Got him tapping, and then it was like, okay, I kind of know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, exactly. Oh man, that's great. See,
I was not very popular after that.
No, I imagine so. And Jesse had popped in. He's another one that he's like background in martial arts and MMA and things like that. And a lot of times people say that to Jesse in particular, and I've had that compliment. As well. I don't know if you've had people notice this, that when you write the fight scenes, they're different. When somebody knows what it's like to what that combat or what that confrontation is like, from having experienced it, it hits very differently. So like I tend to write my fight scenes like, most everything is over within a few seconds anyway. So I try not to draw anything out. It's people are going for vulnerable spots. It's gross. But like, I'm sorry that it's not like we're not just sitting here, doing that kind of stuff. So
it's that West Side Story where you have a knife, I have a knife, we both have it out, and we're going to duel, and everyone's going to leave us alone. Yeah.
Right. I'm fine to walk around snapping for a half hour before we do anything, but still,
you have to do that.
Right. So let me ask you this: so in terms of like where the idea comes from? For you said you pictured dialogue first. Do you picture just like, I have a character, kind of a cool idea, or is it like an overall story that's the cool idea that happens first? Like where's the
character comes first? I think character usually comes first, or there may be a snippet of a theme. So I would say character or theme come first. Like I want to say something about something, but it's probably 70-30 character, and I come up with a character. Right. To me, character is everything. I don't. If I can't read, I won't read past a chapter or two if you don't make me care about your character.
That's fair. Yeah.
So, and to me, whether it's TV, getting past an episode or two of episodic TV, or even like a movie, like. I don't want I'm not gonna bag on one of the biggest franchises in history, but I'm not a huge fan of the Fast and Furious movies because I don't feel like there's a whole lot of depth of character there.
There's not a lot of depth in those movies now.
Yeah, so I don't. I'm like, okay, the action's cool, but I don't. Right. Whereas I'm a huge geek for like the MCU movies because you think of like Iron Man. who goes from this most selfish person in the world to doing the most unselfish act at the end after he's gotten everything he ever wanted in life, which is, a family and the love of a child and all that. So, and he's been able to walk away from it. So you look at a character arc compared to, someone who doesn't change, and one can hold me for maybe an hour, the other can hold me through 20, 30 movies.
For sure.
So back to your question, I either get a theme that I want to work on, or I get a character. And mostly it's character, and then trying to figure out, what's their arc going to look like, in a complex arc, preferably, and then going from there, and then the rest. A lot of it comes like I'm as much as I would like to plot more. I'm pantser. I'm so pantsing. It's not even fun.
I can tell. I already knew.
And hopefully that'll change as I get more experienced in this, and I come up with a better process, quote unquote process. But yeah, I mean, the characters will go, yeah, we're not doing that. You hear about that all the time. Authors say, characters, and it's like, it doesn't make any sense. And then you start writing, you're like, oh yeah, that makes 100% sense, that the character just refuses to do what I'm asking him to do, or a character pops up because I realize I need someone to play a role to help illuminate something that I'm trying to put out there, and then like, where the hell did this character come from?
right.
No, I get the room. Some extra walks into the room and just start ad-libbing lines.
Right. You know what? That's really interesting, because a lot of people I talk to, more often than not, they have their creative process very well set. There's still some things that you're trying to figure out about yours.
Yes.
And that's really, really interesting to me, because this is like the whole purpose of diving into this with other authors, is to get a glimpse of that and what that looks like for you. So I knew Pantser, like I pegged that from 10 miles away, right? That was an easy one.
Tattooed up here.
Yeah, I could tell when you're like, I start with character and some dialogue, and then fill in with some things here or there last minute. I'm like, okay, well, that's obviously like that's some major pants energy. And look, it's all good, because like
major pants energy. That's my bumper sticker.
Major pants energy. Because you can turn out the stories. The trouble, and I think this is like, many people have said this, and I've kind of felt it myself a little bit too, is when you're trying to write the second part of a story, or the second book in a series, or whatever.
Right.
The pantsing doesn't really work anymore, because like now you're tied to all of those things that you did before, where you're like, oh crap, I wish I had done this differently, but it's already in print, so I can't. So there's some of that, but all of that makes sense. I always see scenes and characters and like dialogue first. I'm like, I love writing dialogue. Like it's just like, it's such a little comfort spot for me. I have a blast doing it. I really enjoy writing the descriptive stuff and just very vivid imagery and all of that, but it's not as fun. Not to say that it's a chore, but like I just, when it's dialogue and I've got banter back and forth between characters, man, I am just so happy. So I tend to write characters that's going to happen with, for you. When you're doing that, do you put down will you put down little scenes that may or may not be added in? Do you sketch out your characters?
I started to. My brain doesn't work that way. If I sit down and try to, I have all the characters. Like, oh my god, when I started, I downloaded everything. I listened to everything. I read all these craft advice and all that. Have character interview sheets, and I made a spreadsheet, and it's like anything with me. I'm very instinctual. I live everything. I do everything very instinctually. Yeah. It's going to bite me in the ass, I'm sure, at one point in my life. But
it'll work. Yeah,
I'm old. I'm old, and it's worked so far for me. But I guess I'm the old dog you can't teach new tricks to. But so I tried it, and it doesn't. I grow very bored with it very quickly.
Yes.
And luckily for me right now, there's no deadline. There's all I have is self-imposed deadlines. So, if this comes out good enough, and if I'm lucky enough to, let's say, get an agent and a book deal, and then I'm on, we need a sequel within the next year or two, then I'm going to have to, adjust accordingly. But I also survived for 24 years in the Army. with harsh deadlines. So, it's like,
Yeah, you'll be all right.
I'm pretty sure I could adapt if I had to.
Yeah, for sure.
But yeah, I mean, part of this for me has also been very cathartic. Living, I wanted to write early on, and I have a master's in English lit, and then I joined the Army, and they beat all that creativity out of me. And
Right.
any writing I did was, I guess would be in the realm of technical writing when you're writing an operations order or a memorandum for record because you're asking for millions of dollars to build something or whatever, right?
Yeah.
So then trying to get those, and then as I had my kids, I started to write for them. And then actually the very first thing I ever published was a self-published picture book.
Nice.
I was in Iraq, and the USO had this wonderful program where you could record yourself reading a book and then send the book home with a USB card.
Neat. Yeah.
So you could read a book to your kids, and mine were 1 and 3 at the time. So when they were watching the videos, they thought it was really me really reading them a book live.
Oh my gosh, that's so great.
They didn't understand. So then when I would Skype with them from Iraq, they'd be like, "Daddy, can you read us a book?" And it's like, so I would before I would call, I'd go online and get the text of like Cat in a Hat, something that you could easily find. That I knew we owned at home, and then my wife could page through the book while I read it to them. So then, I always wanted to write, and I had tabled that for forever. So I was like, well, why don't I try to write my own? And then I had one of my soldiers was a phenomenal artist. So he said he would do the artwork for it, and we self-published a children's book called The Mouse and the Cheese, which is kind of a lesson in sharing. And I was able to get that, so the kids really helped connect me back to my creative, self. And so part of what I've been doing over this last year and a half, and maybe that's part of why I don't have a fixed, process, is it's been very cathartic for me to reestablish that those creative juices, feel it out, use it as kind of a therapy, if you will. I've revisited a lot of like fantasy and sci-fi books that I've loved from the past. I've picked back up again and like, let me see if they're still, if I still like them as I read other new things as well. But trying to just really reconnect with the 20-year-old me who wanted to be a writer.
Right, where you didn't have it beaten out of you for 24 years.
Right.
Jesse makes a good point. 24 years in the Army means a master's in fuck it, we'll make it work.
There you go.
I love it.
Yeah,
that's good, man. So when so you're rediscovering both your love of story and creativity and things like that, and you're also just trying to find your own way to creating more and all those things. This is awesome. Is there a particular time of day? Okay, so military, you're relatively regimented.
Mornings.
So I was gonna say, like you got to be a morning writer. Are you a morning writer?
8 to 12 is a sweet spot for me.
Is it? Okay.
That's what I'm most creative. Yeah. Get up, see the kids, get the kids ready for school, eat breakfast, and then play a couple games of Sudoku to kind of flush the logic or the scientific, I don't know what, mathematic part of my brain out.
Okay. Yeah. No, I hear you.
Engage creativity, and then probably from 8 to 12-ish until I get hungry. I try to write. And then obviously there's not other distractions going on,
For sure. Sometimes life gets in the way. It's just the way it works.
Yeah, exactly.
You gotta get around it. But
I'm a morning person. And then if I have time in the afternoon, I'll usually edit. I'll go back and edit stuff that I've written, and it's I have some editing software. I'll just go through and I'll punch up the sentences, or I'll look for passive voice and little things like that. Or I was told one of my critique partners gave me really good advice, is I would do things like so and so turned and said blah 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 blah, which I don't need to say the and said, because if there's quotations, it's there.
Yep.
So one of the I don't do it anymore, but originally one of the things I would start doing is I literally would word search for the word and every place I would do that, I would be able to edit that out. And after doing it for a few weeks, it was like, okay, now I've improved my craft in writing, and I don't really do it anymore. So
for sure. Yeah. I had a very similar experience, just in a different, not so much the ands, but but stacking multiple actions in one like sentence, so to speak, like doing this and then this, like,
Right.
And definitely part of my process is when I get, I mean, I'm an edit as you go kind of guy. So like I have to, my brain's constantly pinballing and bouncing all over the place. So for me, before I start a writing session, I like to go back. I'll read the last chapter. I'll do some cursory edits. I'll give myself like 15 minutes, basically, just like, so I'm not sitting there all morning, obsessing over a paragraph. I'm like, well, I just want to polish it up. Like, yeah, I can tighten up this. I can tighten up that. I can replace this phrase. This sounds better, whatever. And then get into what's new. And I keep doing that with the chapters that are further behind. So everything just kind of rolls along in like this group.
Yeah.
By the time I get to the end, though, I've got a pretty clean I've got a pretty clean manuscript. And then I run it through Pro Writing Aid. And
yeah,
so
that's why I use Pro Writing Aid as well.
Yeah. And I love it. It has taught me a lot about some of the habits that I've formed that are good to break. So, and I don't go through all of the things on there. I'll do like the sticky sentences, repeat words, stuff like that. I definitely use it to, I'm an adverb annihilator, so I don't like to have many outside of dialogue, like at all. If I've got like 80,000 words and I've got more than 20 adverbs outside of dialogue, for me, it's too much. But I replace all those with the description and everything. So there's different ways that you go about it, but definitely revealed a lot. And what's funny is that once you start building those habits, it really doesn't take long before you catch yourself as soon as you put the word down.
Yes.
Like I wanted to do that, it's just like an instinctual kind of thing. So I know as somebody who's been pantsing their way through some of these, I kind of know where you're going to go with this next question. But your best creative work, is it done while the words are coming down, or is it done when you're doing whatever? You're in the car, you're thinking about the story. Is it at night? Like when are those creative juices just like kind of running wild for you?
At the two most inopportune times for writing,
obviously,
naturally, while I'm driving,
of course,
or while I'm showering.
Oh, nice. Right. Two times
not to scare off anybody who's watching or will watch, but the number of times I have thrown a towel around me, ran out of the shower, and run to my whiteboard to jot down an idea, because I also have CRS disease, which is can't remember shit. So I don't trust myself. I don't trust myself to wait till I finish the shower, get dressed, then go type it. So I will literally run from the master bedroom to the office to jot down a note.
Yeah.
And then
I think I might suffer from some CRS as well. So, and there's nothing worse, man, when you're sitting there and you're like, I had this great idea. What was it? And it's like, oh man, I
saw someone say best ideas are in the can, but in the can I got my phone with me, so I can put notes on OneNote. So it's when I'm driving and I can't type on OneNote, or I'm in the shower and I can't type on OneNote.
Yeah. What do you use for like software for getting the words down?
I write in Word and then I transfer it to Scrivener.
Okay. Yep.
I've had Scrivener for over a year, but I just started using it in the last month, because I have it. I should start learning how to do it. And then the other thing, this is not really on that, but one of the things I discovered recently is using AI to put a chapter in and say, give me a 1-paragraph summary of what this chapter says.
Oh,
and I have a separate document in Scrivener that are chapter summaries. So now when I'm going through and seeing if the flow makes sense of everything, I can, without having to read 60,000, 80,000 words, I can read, 25 paragraphs or whatever it comes out to, and just go, oh, okay, yeah, the story, logically flows and makes sense.
Right. Yeah, I was. That's funny. I was recently goofing around with that as well with Twitter's Grok AI, and because it's a little bit more fluid, and plus it has like the sarcasm mode, so it's just like a more comfortable way to, to go back and forth with it. But putting in some of the writing pieces and being like, okay, like what's the overall mood that you're picking up on this? And it's like, well, this is like slower, it's character development, so on and so forth. My pacing is typically like pretty spot on. Like I've worked hard on that, but it is interesting to see how it just takes all of that. It's like, well, I'll distill it down to like something, bite size. They do it for the reviews on Amazon now, which I don't know if I really like or not, but like, it's AI is a tool. I think we can all agree, at least on that, and I like using it as such. It helps me write code all the time for the day job. So like, I'm good there. I'm like,
what's that?
I'm not writing all this crap. I'm a database.
What's a day job? I don't know what that is.
Oh yeah, nice. Yeah, that's right. That's good. Good for you.
I'm happily retired.
Yours is running out of the shower to put notes on your whiteboard.
In fact, yeah, I'm so happily retired that at my retirement ceremony, part of my speech was if I knew retired, because I was on terminal leave, so I didn't show up to the office for like the last 5 months. And I said, if I knew retirement was going to be this enjoyable, I would have done it 24 years ago.
Something tells me you may have had a hard time. So let me ask you this, because I want to get into just a bit more serious of a topic to dip into, because you said like it's a lot of times writing is cathartic for you.
Yeah.
Do you find, and I know you're in a different place in your life now, but being creative when there's some anxiety, or when something bad has happened, or when like we all have those moments in life where it's like, okay, this is like, I'm really just not in the best place right now. And have you had those moments? Have you tried to be creative in those moments? And what was that like?
Yeah, obviously it's hard. So if I'm a little bit more disciplined, then maybe I'll use it for research on something, where I don't have to engage the creative mind. Other times though, I will go and do something else to help kind of connect with the creativity. So like I like listening to artists in different fields. Like I love listening to musicians or really a lot of musicians. I like listening to musicians a lot, break down how they write a song or how they do music.
Nice.
Because it's storytelling, but it's in a different medium.
Absolutely.
So that's one thing I'll do a lot is I'll try to re-engage the creative juices, but do it more of a passive receive mode to try to get out of those funks. And then other times though, I will use it for catharsis. Like, trust me, there's some characters in the book that are my way of getting revenge.
You're getting some things out. Yeah.
I mean, some of the characters are homages to people that that were invaluable for me throughout my career, and there's a handful of people who it's my way of giving them a big middle finger.
Oh, nice. And I imagine just with the military background, in that when you're in that environment, you don't really have time to be sad, no. Like something has to get done. Like
there's no sadness.
Yeah. Right. Yeah, there's no, it's either all sadness or there's no sadness. But that being said, perhaps that is kind of a tool that's actually a really good suggestion. It basically piggybacking on somebody else's creative journey and what they're talking about, in order to just get out of your own head, so to speak, to follow that. One of the guys I love listening to is Rick Rubin. Because he's like, here you got brilliant music producer. He doesn't know how to play a single freaking instrument. And he's like, been behind all of these incredible albums, throughout his life. I'm like, that's just like, I'm just really interested in how that works. Like how, so
what's fascinating is Ethan Hawke.
Really? Okay.
Yes. He is so introspective, and listening to him talk about his craft is just, it's mesmerizing. And I just stumbled upon it. I think it was like an Instagram feed where he had like a 30-second, 1-minute soundbite talking about, and I was like, oh my God, that's like very insightful. And so because he's not like, he's not like a movie star, right? So he's not somebody who I think most people would be like, oh, I love, like, who's your favorite actor? It's Ethan Hawke.
Right. Yeah. I wouldn't say he's an A-lister, so to speak, but
yeah, he's very thoughtful about, like another A-lister who's thoughtful, but he's like Denzel Washington. Listen to someone like him talk about it. Or, I've listened to Christopher Nolan talk about how directing movies, and Hans Zimmer talking about scoring a movie. That's just, So things like that are just, like I said, outside
Yeah.
outside of the writing, because there's just a million. I do listen to writers, but at some point
Sure.
it's like, okay, that works for you. It doesn't necessarily work for me. It's
Precisely.
like
Right.
when I first started, my whole thing was like you said, like, oh, what's your process? What's your process? What's your process? Because can I copy your process? And I'm at the point now where I realized, no, I can't.
Yeah.
I'm me. I
Absolutely.
write the way I write, and I mean it'll evolve hopefully, because hopefully we all continue to evolve. But
For
I
sure.
can't pretend to be, Neil Gaiman or Stephen King
Right.
or whatever, right? They all have they do what works for them, and
Yeah.
that's what it is.
Yeah, I've made the mistake of trying to copycat. In this case, it was a friend of mine who's an author and just really, really, he's got books all over the place. He's really, really well known, like worldwide publishing and all that kind of stuff. And military-ish sci-fi, kind of stuff for him. And I'm listening to him and I'm like, I guess I got to try. Like, I'm going to try writing like that. I was never more just irritated at myself than when I tried to do that, because
Right.
it's against what you want to do. Like,
Yeah.
and you're an intuitive person. And so when it is against your intuition, you automatically know it's wrong. And you may try it for a while anyway, if you're just like stubborn. But like you automatically know, like that's not gonna work.
Well, and the spectrum's so wide. I mean, like you got Stephen King on one side who sits down and knocks out almost perfect manuscript, off the top of his head. And then you have a guy like Jeffrey Deaver, who writes, a lot of procedural, and Lincoln Rhymes is his character, Bone Collector. And from what I've heard him talk about is he'll spend 6 months plotting the story out, and then really it's like Mad Libs. He's filling in.
Yeah.
It's already. But so those are probably the two most diametrically opposed.
Yeah.
And, and all of us are somewhere on that spectrum, and
or you could be like George R.R. Martin and just not write anything.
Well, there you go.
Yeah. There's that too. It's funny because a couple nights ago I was talking to Devin Erickson. He did Theft of Fire, so he's been all over the place. And he had said something interesting, and actually last week I was talking to Mike LaVoice. You may have seen on the Discords and stuff like that. He's
actually one of the writers in our
perfect. All right. Yeah. No, I adore him. And he and I, again, it's like
Mike the voice.
The Gen X energy, right? Like we get it. But he had mentioned too that a lot of these guys that are writing and they're churning out novel after novel after novel, like in the same year, they're writing an outline that's 20 or 30,000 words. And I'm like, 30,000 words is practically half the book. Like, do I really have to spend that on the outline? Like, and much like you, it's in my head. I want to get it on the page, like immediately, and I don't want to just sit on it, and I don't want to have to chart it out and stuff like that. But that's something that I'm learning too, is how to be lean a little bit on the plotting. Like I know I can do it.
Right.
It's just getting into that habit.
Like I have Plotter. I don't know if you're familiar with Plotter.
I'm not.
It's a good software that helps you plot, and I use it, and then I don't look at it. So very similar. So that's why I realized, like, very similar to these character development sheets that I have. Like I have them and I fill them out originally, and then I never look at them because I just I'm in the flow and I'm going, and and then so I guess that's what it is. Like I it's like following anything. Like you get a meal plan and you think you're gonna follow a meal plan, and then 3 days later you're ordering takeout. So
right. I just wanted some Chinese food, for crying out loud. Like, is it really that bad? No, I get you there. What about a time? Are you a daily writer? You writing every day?
On a good week without distractions, 5 Monday through Friday, and then not on the weekends.
What about a time where you found your output was like cranking out? You were just in your creative element, everything's flowing, you're having a great time. What was that like, and what was life like for you in that period of time?
I mean, it was wonderful. Yeah. It was like, like being in the zone, I guess, in anything, in a sport or anything, where it was flowing. It came easy. I was pumping out, at least a chapter, and it all worked. Very, very little revisions were needed. Nice. I was actually there, I think it was like 3 weeks ago, and but now I'm in a lull. So it's like today I forced myself to write a chapter, and it's okay in my opinion, and I'll all that's fixable. But it was just get something down, and then the next 2 chapters I have bullets. I bulleted. That's one of the things I'll do is I'll bullet out. If I'm not feeling it, I'll go through and I'll make bullets. So I will outline a chapter or 2 ahead. And I know where the story's going. I know how it ends. I know everything that's going to happen. I have like documents ready to go, knowing where it's going, where it's going. But I'm also not tied to that. I know that I'm not tied to that. So if something pops up or something doesn't work, I might write something and know that I got to kill my darling later. Like today, I made an in-stride change just because I was like, why? Like I had a great idea and I thought it would be really cool. And then I realized I don't need it. It does nothing. It adds nothing to the story but words. So, So let's get rid of it. I can do the same thing by, I could do, I was going to have a conversation and I literally killed it because I did the exact same thing with one look.
Oh, nice.
So why have somebody get on a soapbox and say something when they can give somebody a single look and that conveyed everything that I would have done in that conversation. Yeah,
for sure. Oh, absolutely. That's good. I mean, and it's good to recognize those moments too when they're happening and you're like, this is, like there's a lot that you can say just by those character actions instead of just explicitly saying the dialogue. I'll do it in a very similar way for me, where it's like, let's say, for Space Pew Pew that I had going on, right? Which is like, this is different because we're talking space comedy, but 28 chapters from start to finish, right? When I'm working on like chapter 17, I've pretty much sketched out 18, 19, and 20. So like, I know where that's going, and I know where 28 ends. Like chapter 28, I know the ending. It's firm. Like I've got my beginning, I've got my end. I consider that like my container, so to speak. For those 3 next ones, if I'm working on 17, 18 is pretty well set, and I write about a paragraph or 2 in the beginning of it, just saying, okay, this is where it's going to start. Like it starts here because that's where I left off on the prior chapter. These are a couple things that need to happen. By the end of it, this should be the scenario. Right. And then we'll do that for the next couple. But it, like you said, it leaves room to wander off the path if you need to, you know. And I'm not worried about chapter 26 yet. Like I'll have a general idea of what's going on in the story, but I'm not sketching it out, so to speak. That's something that there's my personal thing that I'm trying to change, where it's like I'd rather have it a little bit better of a map, to go on, because I do have those moments as a pantser, as I consider myself like plantser. Where you're just like, I'm going to go off script. I'm just not sure if that's right. The right, and then you get stuck and then you're waiting. And then a couple days you're not writing. I'm like, well, I'm just like thinking about it. I really just need to like shove some words down and, but we find our way through all of these things. Do you listen to music while you write?
Absolutely.
What do you listen to?
Soundtracks.
Okay.
Aforementioned Hans Zimmer or, things like that. It'll all be instrumental. It'll be, I try to get matched. I don't make playlists most of the time. I have a few that I made, which like I made a few atmospheric ones, that I'm a little more moody. So it depends on what I'm writing. Like if I'm writing an action scene, then I'll listen to something that's got more punch to it. Like Samuel Kim, if you're familiar with he'll take themes and he'll do like really cool mashups. Like he's got an amazing one that's Rocky with the Mandalorian theme.
Oh, nice.
So all right. Cool. But it's very dramatic. It's very the Duel of the Fates from Star Wars.
Absolutely. I know that.
Right, which is perfect for like a fight scene. Yep. And then if it's more calm, I'll listen to a little bit more ambient music, but not like esoteric ambient, more dark, like I'm trying to think of a good example, like Batman soundtrack. There's some that have the driving, there's some that have the driving, psychopathic beat to it, but there's the other stuff that's a little bit more melodic and darker, kind of flowy. So but that's the kind of stuff. Nothing with words. If I'm listening to something and all of a sudden words come out, it's like next song. And,
I'll do it. I have to do limited lyrics if I do lyrics at all. If there's like, I can't do like rap or something like that. It's just there's too many words going on all at the same time, and I'll start to write the words down. You know, but I will do like, I like listening to like I'll like prog metal and stuff like that. So like the songs are 10, 11 minutes, you know, very limited lyrics. Tool is one of them. Opeth is another one. Like those are the ones that are like typically my go-tos. But I'll throw on some of the older stuff. I'll listen to Yes or King Crimson, because that kind of like that progressive, like they were just really long songs. It was like a really interesting soundscape. It's a lot like a soundtrack, you know?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely. Are you familiar with the band Nightwish?
I don't know too much about them. Like I know of them, but I don't know too much about them.
I'll go listen to Ghost Love Score.
Okay.
Live from the Walk-In Festival.
Right.
Of Ghost Love Score.
Ghost Love Score, Nightwish. All right.
Nightwish live from Walk-In or Walk-In, WACKEN, I believe it is.
Right.
And
right.
it'll fry your eyebrows.
Not like Christopher Walken. Okay, no, that's all right.
No, it's
very different.
No, it's I can't even do Christopher Walken. I was gonna do something, but it would be
the only words I know. You know, like that's it. I'll just stop right there. Call it that. Not call it good.
This watch.
Right, that's good. So okay, so you'll do music, but you do soundtracks while you're doing creating and stuff like that. That's all good. What about so I know you said like not really deadlines. Are you typically like are you good under like some deadline pressure generally?
Oh yeah.
Is that a military thing or is that just like you?
I think it's a me thing, but it's definitely a military thing as well. I mean, because so time is everything, right? So you know, I used to teach at the infantry officer basic course. And one of and you have there's certain things like your mission, your terrain, your time, and the one thing I used to always start with is what's the single most important factor in your planning cycle and in your mission cycle. What's the one thing you have no control over, and it's time.
It's time, yeah.
Right. So if you have, it's like if I say take the hill, and you say how much, then how much time do I have, or if you tell me take the hill, and I say how much time do I have, and you say I got 30 minutes, well, right, fix bayonets, let's go. If you tell me I got 30 days, well, okay, now I can do some deliberate planning. I can put, eyes on the objective and see what the enemy's movement is. I can prep the objective if I need to. I can, I have many options. So time is going to dictate, what I do. So
right.
So so I guess I was trying to remember how I got on this, but yeah, I mean the Army, I don't think you can thrive in the Army if you don't deal well under pressure and time constraints are obviously one of the biggest pressure points you can have.
Yeah, and I imagine that planning experience would help you if somebody's like, all right, look, I need a story and I'm going to need it in 2 months and it's going to be like this long. It's like, all right, well now I can start to visualize what I need to do daily, in order to make that happen by that. So you're not just sitting there writing your ass off, 2 days before the deadline.
Yeah, I mean, there's also obviously the knowledge of like crap. Like there's a knowledge of your resources, let's say, right? So if we were a football team and I said, hey, I need you to draw me up a play, and you knew that you had a great pass catching tight end, well then that's a play you can pull out quickly. But if you don't have that resource, so the knowledge of that too, like so hey, I need a plan to do X, Y, and Z. Well, okay, I know that the strength of my organization lies in this, and my weaknesses over here. So let me lean into my strength and see if I can hide or short my weaknesses and that kind of stuff. It'd be different, I guess, if somebody asked me to write a period romance. So, let me break out Jane Austen and reread it. And so there's actually that reminds me. So there's a New York. It's called NYC Midnight. It's an organization that does all these writing competitions. I don't know if you've heard of it or not. They do flash fiction, poetry, screenwriting. Okay. They do a short story competition every January that goes through September. And what's cool about it is you get they give you the subject, they give you the genre, and they give you the main character. And you have the first round, you have a week to write, I want to say 2,500 word short story. And then you get evaluated, and depending on how many total people they have, so many move forward to the next round. And the next round, you have 5 days to write like a 2,200 word short story. different genre, different character, different subject, and it
Yeah.
keeps truncating all the way down to the finals where you have 24 hours to write whatever it is, 1,500, 1,700 word short story.
Yeah.
Thing. And you have no idea what the genre, what the subject, or what the character is going to be.
Huh. All right. Well, we're going to play around with that because we're going to put you through Pitch Storm in just a couple minutes here. But then you'll have a few seconds to come up with something.
There you go.
But there's that. No, that's interesting.
Hobbits going up a hill. There you go.
Yeah, exactly. Right. There's a ring. There's So do you feel like you have enough time to be creative in your everyday?
Yeah. Most things. I mean, the kids are at school. My wife working all day, and as long as the dogs aren't barking at the mailman and the delivery people, God stop.
Right.
I got all the time in the world.
So let me ask you this: in terms of, you said you're in a critique group, like writers group.
Yeah.
How do you handle negative feedback? And I don't know if this is something that that you've encountered too much or anything, but when a criticism happens, are you able to put it in its proper place?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll push back on the negative versus constructive, right? So, this sucks. Well, okay, whatever. It's, that wouldn't fly in the group if it did, and then if I got that, I wouldn't care. But the constructive criticism, I take to heart, and I mean, if it comes from a position of where they're not really sure where I'm going with the story, then and if I can explain that away, that's one thing. But like I mentioned before, that turned and said, that was constructive criticism. I was like, oh yeah. Right. Another one I did is I do dialogue, and then I would put some sort of action versus action and then dialogue. And if the dialogue is the most important thing that needs to resonate, then I need to leave you with that, not leave you with, some sort of movement necessarily, the blocking.
For sure.
It depends on obviously what I'm writing, but that was something that I was doing is I would lead with the dialogue because that's what I would write first. And then when I added stuff in, I'd tag it on at the end. And somebody pointed out that, I was burying the lead really because what they were being left with was the add-on, not what was being said, dun, dun, dun. So, so I take it well. I think I take it very well. And,
nice.
and if I can't explain away their criticism to them to get them to go, oh, yeah, okay, that makes sense why you did it that way instead.
For sure.
Then I try to internalize it.
Yeah, I think it's a matter of definitely putting it in its proper place and knowing the difference. If somebody who's just being a drive-by like jackass, or somebody that's where it's a genuine thing. I came across this when I used beta readers for my debut novel, and I tried to, because for me it's the database engineer background in me. I didn't just give it to people and say, hey, just tell me what you think. I sent them like a 12-question questionnaire because I'm trying to aggregate the responses. So I know that if I give it to 7 people and 6 out of 7 said this is awesome, and one of them said this chapter confused me, I don't care. I nailed it. So approaching it that way. And then if I had 5 out of 7 that were like, I'm just a little confused in this spot, and it's like, all right, it makes sense to me. I'm seeing it from the inside out. I'm not seeing it but there's really good information there, even though they're telling me I screwed up, but I can definitely use that. So, it all kind of depends, I suppose. So let me ask you this before we jump into some pitch storm stuff and have a little bit of fun to close this out. Is there anything you wish you could change about how you work creatively, whether it's your efficiency, your flexibility, your output, how you work, or anything else? I know we touched a little bit on plotting before. Is that the main thing for you?
That would be the main thing. I think the plotting. I'm pretty happy with how I develop stories and all that, but the plotting, I mean, that would definitely streamline it maybe, but I would say as I go forward, plotting right now, because this is also a lot of catharsis for me as I transition to this, new as I metamorphose to, emerge from my army cocoon and become a beautiful butterfly. I think I think my process is my process right now, because it's just like anybody, you talked about before about, you touched on a little bit with mental health and all that, and I think for anybody who leaves something, I mean, if 24 years of my life doing it, and I don't, whatever it is, right? Engineering or computer engineering, or if you're a doctor, or you identify as that. If somebody asks you, hey, what, who are you? What do you do? And, I've made a conscious, yes, I mentioned military a lot tonight, and it's still a strong part of who I am. And if you look behind me, there's military and all that other shit. But I also like, intentionally on my LinkedIn profile don't have, it's Andrew Heymann. It's not, Lieutenant Colonel retired Andrew Heymann. So part of me is trying to divorce myself from that in order to evolve and move on as a person. So I think a lot of it is about identity and being comfortable in whatever skin you're in. And I'm now, shedding one skin. I went from a butterfly metaphor to a snake metaphor, but I'm shedding the soldier and trying to become, one of my I have a my website's my name, but then I also have another one that goes right to the same thing, and it's warriorwordsmith.com. And I even just got if my mom's watching this, sorry mom, you'll get mad at me. I just got a brand new tattoo which emulates the whole warrior wordsmith. Even at my age, I care what my mom thinks. I get it. The idea that I'm moving from that to something else, and to our previous conversation, a world where creativity was suppressed. It's still there a little bit, because you got to figure out creatively how to approach different problems, but it's not the same kind of. It's within clear left and right limits versus our realm of creativity, which is do whatever the hell you want, like make it up, man, whatever you want,
Yeah,
and,
exactly.
The aliens come down and they fart toxic gas, so that's what we got to fight, and they're harvesting all of our bean crops,
Sure.
There's my first pitch war, by the way. You can count that one.
That's great.
So I think the way, I know it's a long-winded answer, but I think I think the way I work now is at least for me necessary.
Yeah, I found my way through that. I mean, I'm just like, I've always been kind of an absurd person, just like from the get-go anyway. So for me, that part of it was like pretty natural. I'm writing a book. I'm like, well, I want capybara in space, so I'm writing some space capybara now. I had this idea, because like I get ideas all the time, and a lot of them I just like let them go. I'm like, I don't have time. I'm not putting that down. I'm not doing anything with that. But every once in a while, one of them hits. I'm like, oh, I gotta bookmark that one. And then so I make fake book covers for like the story that I haven't written yet that I'm going to, So I did one of like I want this guy who's like, he wakes up, he's like the world's like, most skilled assassin, but he wakes up and he's a chicken. But like a human body, but just like a big chicken head. I'm like, what would this look like? I need to write this, like, because it's just.
Do you draw the covers, or do you AI? Like what?
I throw it in AI real quick, and then just like I do a lot of graphic design on my own anyway. So like I'll start with that image, I'll tweak it, do whatever, throw it in, put in the title, and then I'm putting up like this is I called it like a cluck and dagger like mystery.
That's awesome.
Like like I'm just like, because I'm like I would love to write this, so like why not just embrace the absurdity, Actually, this is a good question by Aon here, and it was, do you ever envision the whole story from beginning to end, or only parts? What would you say?
I envision the ends. I don't envision the whole story. I envision usually the beginning, and I envision the end, and then I'll have then scenes in between. But like even the grimdark one, like I know exactly how I want the grimdark that I want to write next. I know how it begins. I have the opening scene noted, like that's plotted out galore, and I know exactly how the whole book's gonna end.
Right.
But I'm not sure how I'm going to get
the middle part. It's
the middle part, how I get there, the journey without too many side quests that But I think that's how I kind of, and maybe that's the Army, because Army, you do backwards planning. You plan the end state first, and then you backwards plan from there. So I don't know, maybe that's part of it, is I know where I need to get to, and what everything needs to look like when the dust settles, and this is my new world. And so how do I get there? And I think where I run into trouble obviously is, that's not working, and then the characters might, and part of that though robs the characters of a little agency. So those are things that I end up kind of having to rework. But so to answer the question, I know the beginning and I know the end, but everything in between, or some things in between, are kind of where I have.
Yeah, it's like that. It's that middle 90,000 words. I'm just not sure. Everything else is fine.
I know. Yeah, I know the first 5,000, last 5,000.
Right. Yeah, it's all good. I just have to do some stuff. I mean, I'll work the same way. I tend to. I'll know, like, I have the idea of the character and like what the general story and all that's going to be. I know where I want that character to end up at the very end of that story. So like my ending is always solid before I put a single word down. It's all up in here and it's done. The one thing that I do in terms of beginning is I always look for a place where I can shove the character right into the center of action. So from the first word, you have an idea what's going on and you figure it out with the character. I just really enjoy writing like that. But it's that timing too, because then you're like, well, like, is this book taking place over the course of 3 days, or does it need to be like a year or like 3 weeks? Or, so like those little details are, but those get worked out.
And I think that comes to the, you said before, I think this may have been before we came on, but you enjoy character driven pieces, and I definitely do. So I think that's it, right? Because you're laying out the character arc, and it's where do I begin? Where does the character begin, and then where's the character at the end of it? So that's where that beginning and the end give you, how does that character develop? Whether it's a rising or a falling arc, or a redemption or something like that. And that's like, for me, that's why I see the character and I see their journey, not necessarily all the steps along the way, but I know that they're going to start at this point and they're going to end at that point, and then I got to figure out how to get them there. Did you lose me, or did I lose you?
Oh, can you hear me now?
Yeah, I don't know. I froze, or did you freeze? Or
everybody froze. We're gonna get there. Don't worry about it. So
you get frozen. You get frozen. You get frozen.
Everybody gets. I'm like Oprah. Everybody gets a frozen. So hey, let's do some pitch storm and wrap this up, right? And then I'll give you the floor again after that, and we'll finish up. But I want to have some fun with your impromptu creative brain.
Okay.
And we're going to split it open and see how it works on this one. So I'm going to go ahead and go here and bring this up and then give a quick announce, right? Just to kind of explain the game. Boom. Next up, we're going to play some Pitch Storm. This little exercise provides us a live real-time look into our guest's brain. This is a fully random event, all about creation in real time, neurons firing, and I want you to be able to witness that magical moment when the spark of an idea manifests into something awesome and interesting in our physical world. Guests are given a random character, random plot, and must pitch these two things as a story, as detailed as their heart desires. Once 30 seconds pitch is expired, there's 2 additional rounds with a unique twist where the story must be repitched, and heckling is mulligans. So if we do one of these spins and you're like, no, that sucks, I'm not doing it, that's fine. We can do a respin. You just can't do 2 respins in a row, right?
Okay.
When you hear this sound, hopefully you heard that. That's the 30-second mark. So that's usually like the timer's up, but you can go a little bit over. That's fine. Okay. And we have over 4 billion combinations possible of characters, plots, and wrinkles to throw in. So you literally have no idea what we're going to get. I split them into 2 different wheels. That is just so this piece of software will actually work, because I had too many for one wheel. So it doesn't really matter. They're all fully randomized. So you want to start with A or B?
A.
It's just the illusion of control. It's the illusion of a choice. So let's spin it and see what you get for a character. We're going to work with a duck with anger issues.
A duck with anger issues. Okay.
Okay. And then for plots, we're going to go A or B.
Well, I guess we'll go with B.
We'll go with B. All right. Boom. Angry Duck. And let's see where we start here. Must stop a child mayor from bankrupting their hometown. Okay.
What?
We can spin that one if it's a little weird.
It's very weird.
All right.
It's very weird. I'll go with it. I'll go with it.
All right. So look, you can make it grimdark if you want to. Like, it doesn't matter to me. Go wherever you want with this thing. It does not. It literally. It's just all up to you. So, 30 seconds. Give me a pitch on this angry duck trying to stop a child mayor from bankrupting the hometown. Go for it.
So the child mayor wants to build a bigger bridge to get to the playground, and the bridge is going to affect the flow of the water, which is going to affect all the water supply for the town and cost a lot more money. So the duck understands that their habitat's going to get destroyed, and the town's not going to have any clean water. So they round up all the rest of the waterfowl to do a flyover of the construction site and shit over everything before stopping, literally mucking up the works.
just call it right there. It's fantastic. Aiming for the foreman's convertible, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. I like this vibe. I do. All right. So let's go. We're going to go notes A and a notes B, right? So let's throw a wrinkle into this and then see how this changes the story. Oh my goodness. All right. Let's go with what if the main character could talk to cats as well, right? So your angry duck, not just waterfowl, but cats. So let's repitch this and let's add that into it. You got 30 seconds.
So after they muck up the works, the child mayor goes to his pet cat and gets the other pet cats, because cats prey on birds, obviously, to round up all the strays and all the other cats that they can get in the town. And there's basically going to be a giant interspecies war between the waterfowl and the cats. But thankfully, the angry duck is able to speak cat and is able to talk everybody off the ledge and have a detente so that the war does not happen.
A little bit like Babe talking to the sheep,
Oh yeah, there you go.
Yeah. No, I like it. It's a trope, but it's one that works. All right, so let's add one more wrinkle. Now, after this one, I want you to bring the story home with an impactful ending. So let's see what we get. Yep, we'll make it work. You got it's good. We got this so far. My 8-year-old niece would be perfect for the lead role. How do we make that happen? Right.
So luckily, the guy who provides all the livestock, all the ducks and the geese and the cats for it, happens to be the uncle of the niece's father. So basically a little bit of nepotism, is able to bring the 8-year-old in to be to act as the mayor of the town and save a little bit of money, because you got kind of a one source resourcing for all your casting for both your animals and your shoulder actors.
So how's the end of the story work out? What happens at the end? Let's get a resolution here.
The resolution is going to be that the 8-year-old turns 9 and suddenly gets imbued with a little bit more wisdom as they move into 4th grade and realize that they don't need the bit larger bridge for access to the playground, and it would be cooler to have a playground around a creek where the waterfowl and the cats get to run and play as well. So it's one big happy playground for all the kids in the village. It's a happy ending.
And everybody gets along, and we have an ending. Bravo, sir. Bravo. I like it. I think it's I really was going to wait for the grimdark part of that, but it didn't.
Not with kids. Not with kids.
Yeah, I know. It wasn't really the vibe. I know. Let's do one more. What do you say?
All right. I'll try to go grimdark on this one.
Let's see if we can go a little bit darker on here. I mean, you were there though with the whole shitting on the construction site. I like that a lot. That was good.
Yeah.
So let's do you want to go A or B on this one?
We went A last time, so I guess we'll go B this time.
We'll go B. All right. Let's see. No whammies. Here we go. And you get that reference. Yes. You're that age. Group of teens tasked with protecting the world.
Okay.
All right. Teen, I don't know, maybe superheroes or maybe just like whatever's.
And then, of course.
What's that? Exactly. We're gonna add Frylock into this. Plus A or plus B for you?
Let's go with B.
B. All right.
B and B.
All right. So a group of teens tasked with protecting the world, chasing their crushes with the help of a girl next door. Okay. That sounds like it's distracting. Do you want to respin either of those?
Yeah. Let's respin this last one.
Let's respin this one. All right. Here we go. Do you want to stick with B?
Yeah, it's fine.
All right. Okay. Here we go. Group of teens tasked with saving the world, struggling to exorcise a demon from a small child.
Okay.
Oh, about that grimdark.
Yes.
Okay. All right, man. You got 30 seconds. Let's hit this one.
So the child became 9 and was the mayor of the town, and they realized it was actually possessed by a demon.
I call back. I like
So this will be the sequel. So the teens, the young teens, we're talking like 13-year-olds from the middle school, all band together, and they read a book on exorcism, and they go out in the woods and they make little crosses and Jewish stars and any other religious symbols they can out of sticks and twigs in the hopes that they're going to do their own exorcism on this 9-year-old mayor child.
What could possibly go wrong?
Exactly.
Yeah. Right. Okay. All right. Hey, let's throw a wrinkle into this. We'll do one from A and one from B.
All right.
All right. So let's see if we can add something to make this even more bizarre. And everyone loves a long-winded villain monologue. So let's try and think about what that would sound like. So introduce the villain for me, and maybe a little bit of their whole thing here, right? So
at this point, the villain is the possessed 9-year-old.
Okay.
So as the teenagers come in with their makeshift religious totems, whatever. I probably shouldn't channel The Exorcist in that language, but this is hard.
Right?
Holy cow, this is hard.
So what's the speech that what kind of speech are they going to give to try and stop the teens? Let's think about that.
Yeah, you and your oh my god,
you're so and so.
You and your Taylor Swift music. You think you know everything. You know, you sit there and you listen to all your teeny bopper music and all that. You think you understand the world. You know nothing. You realize that I was here when the world was first started. I may look like a little 9-year-old, barely out of diapers, but I'm 9,000 years old, and I will tell you that your little music and your little tokens have nothing on Mozart and Beethoven.
I like it. All right, good. And darn it, I'm going to do whatever I want with the waterfowl. Yes. Yeah. All right. So let's add one more wrinkle in, and let's bring this home with an ending and see where you go with that one. All right. So we've got our teens, we got our totems, we've got our possessed 9-year-old, and we've got, what if the main character is trapped in a tower by their overbearing mother? No.
Can I respin that one? It doesn't really
absolutely.
Okay. I know how I want to end this, but
yeah. Let's see what we get. Let's set it in a dystopian future where the kids have to kill each other on television. About that grimdark. All right, man, bring it home for me.
All right. So the behind the scenes is a producer that's telling the demon to be a little bit more meaner because the ad funds are starting to dry up and the ratings are dropping. So instead of being directly mean, it's going to use a little more subterfuge. So decides to get on the team's good side and invite them for a meal. And what he really feeds them is the food is poisoned as he gives them the roast duck. There you go. See what I did there? So, and all the teens who are there supposedly so open to save the world from this possessed 9,000-year-old demon actually die. And the producers are happy because they had a big catastrophic ending that they wanted.
Wow. All right. I mean, you stayed on point with it. I'm impressed. I'm impressed. I mean, that's kind of awful, but like at the same time, hey, grimdark. Like it's not supposed to
the roast duck. So
yeah, that was a good touch. I'm glad you didn't do the cats, honestly. You could have gone all over the place with that one. Oh no, that's good. And hey, look, the thing that's fun about this is that we have this real-time look. I'm always interested just by creation in general. And when you take something like, none of this ridiculousness existed 5 minutes ago. And so, but to be able to throw in prompts and then to see you and your process, and like the gears are turning, right? And then you're putting something out, and as ridiculous as it may be, it is the structure of a story in real time. And to me, that's just like an awesome thing to see, because we get to see, like I said, your neurons are firing, and then something's going to come out, but it's all based on your intuition, your thought process, and everything. So appreciate the live look into your brain, sir. That's what I'm trying to say.
Thank you. That was, I don't know if it was entertaining. It was a little stressful, actually.
It can be a little stressful. Yeah, for sure. You just got to run with it, and go from there. I think it's a pretty decent exercise, to be honest, just to just to get some thoughts and ideas, to learn how to just really quickly improvise, just throw whatever at the wall and hope it sticks.
You previously talked about ever being in a funk and getting out of it. That would actually be a wonderful way, I think, of breaking somebody out of, I'm having writer's block, I can't think of it, but just throw, it doesn't, I don't think it would work by yourself. You would need the pressure of someone holding you at a time and interacting. But it would probably be a wonderful way of kicking you out of that, because I'm laughing my butt off right now. It's so stupid at all. Everything I said was.
I mean, it is all ridiculous, but you're not wrong. There's value in writing something that's not the thing that you're working on.
Yeah.
And if you are stuck and you feel like you're, the wheels are turning, but you're not going anywhere, just all right, well, here you go, write a couple paragraphs.
Yeah.
That
was literally throwing shit against the wall. I mean,
yeah, for sure. It's not supposed to be elegant. That's not the point.
Right.
No, my first novel came from a writing prompt, came from a card deck of writing prompts. And so from there, it was I was in a small group, and it was write 500 words on this prompt and we'll meet here next week. And I ended up writing about 1,500 to 2,000 words. And I was like, well, this has been a lot of fun. And everybody was like, well, we want to know the rest of the story. Next thing I know, fast forward 2 years, I've got the novel, it's published, it's out, and the whole thing. So awesome. you never really know where this stuff ends up. But I'm going to go ahead and give you the floor for another 30 seconds before we wrap up here. So get those books ready, and go ahead and remind everybody where we can find you, what you're working on, what you do, and all that kind of stuff. Go for it. The floor is yours.
So working on a expansion of the short story that's in this book here, Tales of the E4 Mafia. Where am I? There we go. Yep, that way. So it's an anthology of if anyone's familiar with the E4 Mafia, they are a secret society within the army. Think frat boys and frat girls, sorority girls, I guess, who get up to shenanigans and get out of shenanigans. So all these are pretty wild, entertaining stories. So I'm expanding on that world for a novel. And then the other one I got published this year was a short story here, Minstrels in the Galaxy, which has a companion piece called Tales from the Woods. And those ones are all sci-fi. The other one's fantasy, but they're short stories inspired by the music of Jethro Tull.
Right.
So if anybody, I mean, they're good, but especially if you're a Jethro Tull fan, a lot of them will resonate. And then if anybody wants to find me, I'm on Facebook, I'm on Instagram, and that's it as far as socials go. And then my website is andrewheymann.com or warriorwordsmith.com, and they'll take you to the exact same place.
Excellent. And I must say, your site is really nice. It's clean, it's crisp, easy to navigate. I was like, and this is nice, because a lot of times you go on there and it's still scrolling marquees. It's like MySpace, and stuff like that.
Yeah. So I have a shout out to her name's Lorena Windmeyer, who developed it for me, and she did a great job. So I don't know if she's listening or will listen, but Lorena Windmeyer, if anyone likes what it looks like and wants to work with her, I will, they can just reach out to me. And
highly encourage other authors to check out your site, because it is just nice and clean, simple.
Thank you.
Straight to the point. I really like everything was just easy, and I really appreciate it. And it looks nice, at the same time.
Thank you. I appreciate it. You're actually the first person that's given me feedback on it. So.
Oh, there you go. Excellent.
So nice to hear.
And good feedback at that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap up here, and then I'll have one more question for you, right?
Sure.
Actually, let me ask you that first. Let's do this first. If if you could give advice to anybody, so somebody's watching this, let's say they're having a hard time finding their way, their creative process, struggling a little bit, what kind of advice would you give that person?
Trust your instincts. Be yourself. Don't try to, you can pretend to write like people you enjoy, but all you're gonna end up doing is just sounding like a poor imitation of them. So I would say trust your instincts, and then find a good critique group. That helped me tremendously, was finding a good critique group to get that feedback, so you're not toiling, in silence and in agony by yourself. With constructive criticism from people with some with more experience, some with less. Because the ones with more can actually teach you things. The ones with less, you can teach them. And there's there's that old adverb, like, when you teach, you learn twice.
Oh,
so
yeah.
I learned just as much from giving critique to others and telling them what I think they can improve on by seeing that in myself, as I do from receiving that critique.
Super valuable, and you are spot on. I then call back to martial arts on that one too, because I learned a lot more as an instructor than I did as a student.
Yes.
About all kinds of things, especially how to herd children. So there was that too. A large group. I'll never forget. Like, I'm here by myself, and like the parents are just dropping off their kids, and all of a sudden I've got 11 like 5-year-olds. I'm like, oh man, all right, I got 40 minutes.
We never got to martial arts discussion. We were going to geek out of that. We never
look, I would love to have you back on at some point. Let's do that. Maybe after you've wrapped up your, your novel and stuff like that. I'd love to revisit and all of that. So
I would welcome the opportunity to do that. That would be great. Thank you.
Definitely. So hang out for me. I'm going to just read the outro, and then I'll see you in the green room in just a moment.
Sounds good.
Okay. So
thanks, David. Appreciate it.
Of course. And let's go here. Folks, thank you for tuning in and spending some time with us tonight. Special thanks to Andrew for being a great sport and wonderful guest. Highly encourage you to check out all of his work. Links to all the things are in the descriptions of the video on YouTube and Rumble. If you would be interested in being part of the MIRTHquake community and a guest on the show, it is easy. Head over to mirthquake.show for all the details. Hopefully soon, we'll be prying your brain open and throwing it on the internet for everyone to see. So thank you, everyone. Awesome. Thank you, everyone that popped into the chat and all that kind of stuff. And that's it for us. I'm going to close this one out. So take care and goodbye, everybody. We'll see you next week. And